Joining us now is James Billot, editor at UnHerd. James, thank you for joining us. The relationship between the US and Zelensky, well, it doesn't appear to be getting any better. Overnight, Zelensky claimed that a deal to bring the war to an end is very, very far away, and Donald Trump has hit right back.
President Zelensky supposedly made a statement today in AP. I'm not a big fan of AP, so maybe it was an incorrect statement, but he said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time, and he better not be right about that. That's all I'm saying.
Now, this comes just days after the explosive meeting at the Oval Office. James, what do you make of this development? What is Zelensky trying to do here? It almost seems like he's trying to get the US offside.
I really cannot make sense of Zelensky's strategy right now. It's completely senseless to me. I can understand you have a bad meeting on Friday, things don't go well in the heat at the moment. That much makes sense to me, as bad as it might have been for Western relations. But to then dig in like this and make all these comments to Western press saying that the war's going to go on and we might not end it anytime soon, this is exactly the kind of way you're just going to annoy Trump. Because if there's one thing that this president does not respond well to, it's intransigence, it's stubbornness, it's digging your heels in. Because I'll tell you what, no one can outlast a leader like Donald Trump when it comes to this kind of thing. Now, fortunately, Trump did say recently that the minerals deal between Ukraine and the US was still live, but comments like these are really going to exacerbate those tensions, and I don't like to see where it's all going.
Absolutely, and it's such high stakes. Now, we know that Europe is stepping up. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced a 4-point plan to work with Ukraine to end the war and defend Ukraine from Russia. Now, Starmer provided a $2 billion loan for military aid. He's revealed that he's willing to partner with European support to establish a coalition of the willing to defend Ukraine, but claims that the UK is prepared to put boots on the ground and planes in the air. So this is a completely different strategy. And so how is this really going to achieve peace when we're talking about deploying troops?
Well, I think Starmer, like a lot of European leaders, is adopting this hold me back posture. I think deep down he knows that Europe can't really go it alone, and he's basically counting on the support of the US to do this. But he knows the US won't go in there with him, so he's able to say what he wants with no real downside to it. I'm not particularly sure that Starmer knows exactly what he's doing here, because the truth is that the UK military, much like the EU's, is completely hollowed out. There's something like 5, 10, maybe 20,000 available troops for full combat deployment. And then add to that, there's a recruitment crisis going on. And I'm not even sure how many planes it can put in the air, even if it did want to. So again, I wouldn't be too optimistic or bullish about prospects if it does want to go that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that's far easier said than done. Now, I'm sure many Americans are pleased to see Europe stepping up to defend its own continent, but Trump is essentially calling Europe out for the money it's been sending to Russia throughout the war for buying energy. Now, despite a range of sanctions against Russia, EU imports of Russian energy in particular remain largely unchanged. In fact, imports of Russian fossil fuels last year was more than the $18 billion of financial aid that was sent to Ukraine. So several years ago, Donald Trump warned Germany and other NATO nations for paying for Russian energy, yet asking for America to defend them against Russia. Here's this clip.
It's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia, where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia. So we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting all of these countries, and then numerous of the countries go out and make a pipeline deal with Russia, where they're paying billions of dollars into the coffers of Russia. So we're supposed to protect you against Russia, but they're paying billions of dollars to Russia, and I think that's very inappropriate. And the former chancellor of Germany is the head of the pipeline company that's supplying the gas. Ultimately, Germany will have almost 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas. So you tell me, is that appropriate? I mean, I've been complaining about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened.
Many people laughed at Donald Trump for saying this at the time, but James, this is really a factor in all this, that the EU is spending billions on Russian energy.
And that wasn't the only time that German diplomats laughed at Trump. He made a similar warning in 2018 at the UN, and he said that you're all buying Russian gas. Why on earth are you doing this? And they just sat there and laughed at him. And it was really characteristic of that sneery tone that German liberals and European liberals took towards Trump in his first term, even though he was exactly right. And guess what? Fast forward 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it's Germany that's now paying the price for it. Its economy is in the tank because its economic model was entirely predicated on buying cheap gas from Russia and importing materials from China, both of which it can no longer do. And that's why we're seeing this right-wing resurgence happening in the country that happened 10 days ago in the election as a kind of rebuttal to what was going on with that German establishment. So I have to say, Germany has been really proven wrong here, and Trump, he has to leave this conversation feeling quite vindicated.